The Florida Panthers defeat the Toronto Maple Leafs by a final score of 3-1 from Amerant Bank Arena. We're going to discuss how the Florida Panthers found a way to win despite being outplayed, how their identity has shown on opening night, the goal song, atmosphere, and previewing the Vancouver Canucks.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Friday, October 20th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez, and you can follow me on X at MondoMan12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers. And shout out to everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. And Florida Panther fans, I must say, what a night it was from Amerant Bank Arena on Thursday night as the Florida Panthers defeat the Toronto Maple Leafs at home. Their first meeting since their round 2 matchup back in May, and the Florida Panthers coming out with a win here. And for the most part, I mean, with this one, I mean, you think about how the Florida Panthers, after they got their first power play, there was a lot of time that they were sitting on 2 shots on goal at 5-on-5 for a good while on their in the first period, and then lo and behold, I mean, the goals that the Toronto Maple Leafs gave up to the Panthers in a span of in a less than 3-minute span was some self-inflicted wounds for the Maple Leafs. I mean, John Klingberg wins a board battle, tries to clear it, and then gives it to Kevin Stenlund, and then Kevin Stenlund walks a little bit to the top of the face-off circle, shoots it through traffic, far side, and beats Ilya Samsonov. And then the second one, the Panthers jump in. The Panthers go on a rush. Ulrich Larson jumps in, misses the net. The Panthers continue to cycle the puck, get it back to Ulrich Larson, shoots it from the point. And the Toronto Maple Leafs, two players screened their own goalie in order for Ulrich Larson to get that one through for his first as a Panther. Kevin Stenlund also got his first as a Panther as well, back in the later part of the first period as well. The Panthers were having a hard time with some of their 50-50 battles as well. We spoke about the keys of the game on Wednesday's show with Jacob Winans about how the 5-on-5 play was necessary as far as keeping them on 5-on-5. Only in the second period. In the second period, only 9 minutes and 51 seconds were at 5-on-5 as the Panthers had their power play opportunities, but went also on the penalty kill multiple times in the second period, as 2 of their penalties even were ended power plays. Excuse me. As Sam Reinhart, the first one, he was battling on the ice, looked to have hooked and went to the box as well, and then Evan Rodriguez also goes to the box where ended a power play as well for the Panthers. So Panthers also shot themselves in the foot quite a few times in that second period, but and also their power play as well. Sasha Barkov started to shoot more, but the Panthers were giving up some of the shorthanded opportunities as the Toronto Maple Leafs had 4 shots on goal throughout the night. Some of them breakaways with Sergei Bobrovsky coming out huge, and then one of them being Uvis Balinskis saving a goal towards the end of the second period, where it would look to be a breakaway opportunity on Noah Gregor, and Uvis Balinskis getting that opportunity to get the penalty, and what you call a quote unquote good penalty for the Panthers. One of those rare opportunities as well. Cleaned it up a little bit in the third period as well, where they were forcing them outside towards the end, especially when Alexander Barkov went to the box and not allowing much traffic around Sergei Bobrovsky on the 6-on-4. Bobrovsky, my goodness, how great was he as well? 30 of 31, making 2 huge stops on John Tavares towards the end as well. Also bailed out Matthew Tkachuk, where he was stripped by Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner as well also got the only goal of the night for the Toronto Maple Leafs as well, getting 3 opportunities there, but had a big stop where he took away the angle of Mitch Marner on that giveaway by Matthew Tkachuk and all. And just when it comes to ugly games and ugly wins and all that stuff, Paul Maurice spoke about after the game how the Panthers are going to have to win games like that when it comes to grind it out. Sometimes you're going to be pinned in your own zone. Sometimes your goalie has to come out big, and that's what Sergei Bobrovsky definitely was. And Kevin Stenlund as well on the defensive end, when they were on the 6-on-4, getting a block, having a little bit of a scratch on his face post game as well when it came to the media scrum, and just a big opportunity to make a block. Eetu Luostarinen had a big check where he poked it out of a stick and all to not give the Toronto Maple Leafs an opportunity to cycle the puck more while the Panthers were on the PK as well. And Eetu also had a won a battle towards the half wall in the second period that prevented the Toronto Maple Leafs from getting the puck back to the point. And when you miss on intercepting a pass or getting a stick in the lanes, you can risk getting out of position where the Panthers are sometimes, whether it's the diamond formation or the box, you are preventing yourself an opportunity to get a shot block. But Eetu Luostarinen with such great instincts as well there, which I also wrote a piece on Eetu Luostarinen about value, about shifting him up and down the lineup and all that stuff, and how when called upon, he definitely responds to his assignments whenever called upon by the coaching staff as well. So also Sergei Bobrovsky also had a big stop where Oliver Ekman-Larsson kind of blew a tire towards the latter part of the first period as well. And that's the good and the bad that we're going to see from Oliver Ekman-Larsson at times, sometimes when it comes to reacting to loose pucks in the neutral zone, especially as well. So we definitely saw the good and the bad, the ups and downs, sometimes the ebbs and flows of an Oliver Ekman-Larsson throughout the night as well. But even in this game, I mean, through 2 periods, the only line that was out shooting the opposition and all was the top line of Evan Rodriguez, Sasha Barkov, and Sam Reinhart, which Sam Reinhart gets 3 block shots. You see him consistently on the back check. There was also a back check that Alexander Barkov had in transition where Austin Matthews was trying to make a feed to Mitch Marner as they were gaining the zone. I think there was a pinch by Forsling, I forget who it was, that led to that transition opportunity, and then Barkov comes and saves the day on a back check. So that top line, they came to play tonight for the Florida Panthers as well. Even though the Barkov and Reinhardt did get an empty net goal towards the end, but even though they didn't get on the score sheet, but they were definitely active. They were definitely getting the pucks in the right places, centering feeds, getting them up to the point man as well whenever necessary. So definitely a line that definitely stood out for me as well on the night. But we also seeing how this Panthers identity is definitely showing throughout some of the last 2 games, especially where you wear out the opposition, battling, hard hitting, block shots, you name it. And that really, even though it's a small sample size, we definitely see that a lot really for this Florida Panthers team. When we're going to discuss that more, and we're going to discuss more about where we thought the game was won or lost. The crowd, the sound system, the new goal song, our thoughts on it too. And we're going to give our 3 stars of the game. We're going to discuss that more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Jace Medical. And the Jace case is a personalized emergency medication kit that contains 5 essential antibiotics that treat the most common and deadly bacterial infections. You can also customize your case and add additional life-saving medications based on your unique needs. Jace Medical now offers customizability for your Jace case with dozens of add-on medications. Choose the medication that best fits you and your family's unique needs. Jace is continually working on expand their medication offerings. In their most recent efforts, they added ivermectin as an option in the Jace case. Buy a gift card for family or your loved ones so that they can get a Jace case of their own. Go to jacemedical.com and enter promo code locked on at checkout for a $20 discount on your order. That's promo code locked on at jasemedical.com. This episode is also brought to you by Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs make you look good. Bird Dog stretch khaki shorts are designed to fit slimmer to the thigh and leg, giving you a truly sculpted look. Bird Dog shorts do the exact same thing as Lululemon, but fit way better. They fit way better than regular shorts that are made of stiff, restricting cotton. Bird Dogs fixed this issue by inventing cloud knit fabric that looks like khaki, but stretches to fit way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice movement. Bird Dogs use anti-stink sweat wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. Bird Dogs are functional for any occasion, which is whether it's golf, date, evening, out, pool, workout, lounging, or work. Go to birddogs.com/lockedonNHL and enter promo code LOCKEDONNHL at checkout for a free Bird Dogs water bottle with your order. That's birddogs.com/lockedonNHL for a free water bottle at checkout. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off. We promise you. Segment number 2 here on this Friday, October 20th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Friday. And as you notice, no Nick Fairbanks here on a Friday edition of the show. Don't worry, his spot is not going anywhere. He will join us next week for there won't be a game next week. There'll actually be that 4-day gap in between the San Jose and the Seattle game. So I guess we will be previewing the Seattle Kraken game next Saturday. When Nick comes back on next. But let's talk about the sound system, the crowd. Crowd was 19,288 for this one. Sound system was amazing. The bass shakes the arena. Oh my goodness. The goal horn doesn't sound overblown and it doesn't sound too loud in the arena whenever the Panthers do score. So credit to the Florida Panthers team that they are the game presentation that they're trying to do a better job at suiting the fans and trying to enjoy more than just the product on the ice as well. Let's talk about their goal song. The song, I spoke to somebody from the Florida Panthers PR staff. They told me the name of the song. The name of the song is Move Your Body by Own Boss. And here's the thing about that song more like the artist, excuse me, is the song that they played during the preseason and during Rookie Showcase was by that same artist. It was called Left and Right by Own Boss. And then, I thought that was going to be the new goal song. Okay. And then when Steve Goldstein spoke on Monday during the game against the Devils saying that there will be a new goal song, all the conversation of it was, what will it be? What will it be? What will it be? This whole time they were hinting the whole time the artist, but just not revealing the exact song. And we were just thinking that it was going to be maybe rock and roll, something sing along, maybe something that was Panthers specific as well. And yeah, the name of it is Move Your Body by Own Boss. And not an EDM person, not going to pretend to be one. I did have my phase back in the early 2010s, but that part of my life is not current when it comes to that. So yeah, it's an okay song. It's not something that gets the crowd going too much, at least in my opinion, when it comes to that song. So it's all right. Maybe I'll get used to it, but after a while when it comes to that. But yeah, Move Your Body by Own Boss. When did we think this game was won or lost? For me, I thought this game was won towards the end, right when Sergei Bobrovsky made those 2 stops on John Tavares. And sometimes you'll find in the middle of the game that you think the game was won. Sometimes you think at the very beginning. Sometimes you think in the middle of the third period. But this one, for sure, didn't think it was won until the very end, because the amount of shots that the Leafs had, the possession that they had in the Panthers zone, a lot of this game, Sergei Bobrovsky was huge. And he was the main reason why the Florida Panthers came out with this win tonight. I mean, You think about even though when it came to the Stars not getting on the score sheet as far as goals, I mean, we spoke about how great the top line was as well. And even stretches, there were stretches in the third period where the fourth line was pinning the Leafs in their own zone. I mean, there were really good, some really good shifts from the fourth line in that third period that you definitely gotta tip your cap to when it comes to what Kevin Stenlund, Ryan Lomberg, and Steven Lorentz did in the third period as well. So hats off to that group. Also, I think I mentioned this earlier, but the hero among us, they booed the vet. It sounded like they were booting the vet, but they actually booed the Leafs when they were coming on the ice right at the beginning of the game as well. So 3 stars of the game. Sergei Bobrovsky is number 1 for me. Kevin Stenlund, we spoke about his big blocks at big block at the end. Had a scratch on his face, scored the goal for his first as a Panther. Sergei Bobrovsky spoke about didn't really play much with him in Columbus, even though they were on the same team with Bill Zito there, and then familiarity with Kevin Stenlund bringing him in, and just the maturity in this game throughout the short time here, and just definitely the identity of the Panthers about getting guys who are big, who are going to get in front of pucks, who are going to force you to the outside, to the walls, winning battles there. You know, this is why you sign those type of guys or trade in the case of Lorentz for those guys as well. So definitely it showed for that fourth line with a good stretch tonight. And Oliver Ekman-Larsson, there was a one where OEL looked that he was like he was beat by Matthew Knies, and then a great recovery by stripping the puck and not giving Knies an opportunity to get a shot on Sergei Bobrovsky as well. So, and then of course getting his first goal as a Panther and through a screen, which once again it was the Toronto Maple Leafs screened their own goalie on that one. So, some lucky breaks for the Panthers. It's a division win too. More importantly, it's a division win. It's a very important win for the Panthers. As Ottawa and Detroit are off to a good start as well. Tampa won tonight, and it's definitely going to be a battle for the division, as it's not going to be easy night in and night out. And the Panthers with beating 2 playoff teams in a row, and really when you think about the first 4 games, every single game was against teams in the playoffs, and you're coming out at 500. So, it's when it comes to these first 4 games, you're content. At least I am. I would be. You got to be content about the Panthers, and this is the process of the season as well, trying to create good habits, even though we spoke about it on Wednesday about what have we learned through the first 3 games and all that. And it seems that something that could possibly be sustainable as the Panthers are, as even some of these new guys are coming in and learning a new style of play as well. But we're going to transition over to segment number 3, where we are going to preview the Vancouver Canucks and get ready for the weekend where the Florida Panthers can match up well versus this Vancouver Canucks and how they've done throughout this young season. We're going to discuss that and more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. And Alexander Barkov scores a hat trick. Florida Panthers win the Stanley Cup. And if you want 100 times your money, play daily fantasy hockey on the Sleeper app. These are all possible scenarios for this season, but you have a chance at winning big. You need to play daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper. As the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network, Sleeper is our top choice for daily fantasy sports, daily fantasy hockey. With Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy contests with studs like Alexander Barkov, Matthew Tkachuk, Sergei Bobrovsky, and then others outside of the Florida Panthers, including Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, Connor McDavid, Alexander Ovechkin, Sidney Crosby, Kyle McCarr. All you have to do is pick more or less on the stats for these stars. Choose stats like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more. You heard me, Panther fans. 100 times a payout on sleepers, so start paying attention and get your picks right so you can win big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's LOCKEDONNHL. Please see Sleepers' terms of use for details. Third and final segment here on this Friday, October 20th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. Excuse me. Here on a Friday. And didn't even mention this. Sergei Bobrovsky, with the win tonight, goes second all-time in franchise history in wins with 107, passing John Vanbiesbrouck. So, heck of an accomplishment for Sergei Bobrovsky. He's definitely going to be spoken about for many years once his time is over. As you know, we complain about the contract a lot, the AAV and all, and what his worth is, but there's a lot of good that I can definitely say about what Bobrovsky's brought as far as trying to fit the culture and trying to move the needle for this franchise as well. So a lot of positives throughout the run, throughout the last 4 years, even though it didn't start well for Bob. But the Florida Panthers, they welcome in the Vancouver Canucks to Emirates Bank Arena as the up a little bit of an up and down start for the Canucks this season. As to their first few games, I mean, they destroy the Edmonton Oilers, and Brock Besser gets 4 goals. Their power play is going, which the penalty kill for the Edmonton Oilers has just been god awful to start the season and all for them. I mean, and with and their second matchup, very close game as well for the Vancouver Canucks, and still a team that's in a very big transition period as new coach in around. Jim Rutherford and Patrick Alvin have been there for a few years now as well. There's all that drama with Bruce Boudreau last year, and then even before that with Travis Green and all, and maybe there's a little bit of a sense of direction. But early on in the season, after their loss to the Philadelphia Flyers, Rick Tocchet, their head coach, is already calling out their players. They said everybody played well tonight except, everybody played poorly tonight except Thatcher Demko. It was a 2-0 loss to the Philadelphia Flyers, and he said that it basically could have been 5-0 for the Vancouver Canucks. And they lose tonight against the Tampa Bay Lightning 4-3. So 2-2-0 for the Vancouver Canucks. Their next game will be here at Emirates Bank Arena. As Sam Reinhart's playing his hometown team, even though it's a home game, and OEL is playing his former team that bottom out. So definitely a game that's going to be big for those two as well. And also, as far as guys who are on the trade block as well, Connor Garland is on the trade block as well. The Vancouver Canucks are actively shopping him, so there's a lot of trouble there. Even what looked to have been gone, even the previous seasons from old management, but there's still problems as far as relationships and all that. I mean, Tanner Pearson had last year, who now is with the Montreal Canadiens, was having trouble with the medical staff in Vancouver as well, as far as what to do with his body as well. And all, traded Horvat away last season, and it's like, do you keep him or do you keep Brock Besser? But even before, it's like extending JT Miller and instead of getting some compensation for him. And that's the whole thing about also with Canadian franchises as well, that they're afraid of going into a rebuild. It's because of the ticket revenue, because this league is such a big you get a lot of revenue based on ticket sales, a good majority of it. And that's why we saw with the Winnipeg Jets extend Mark Scheifele and not Blake Wheeler, Connor Hellebuck, even though they had their lowest crowd ever in their game against the LA Kings, where Pierre-Luc Dubois had made his return. So you're kind of in a tough position when you're trying to stay competitive, even if you're mediocre, or going into full rebuild, which the Vancouver Canucks have not committed themselves to. They're trying to continue to win with so little spending up to the cap for the most part, and still not producing on the ice as well. And also, I forgot to mention this about Thatcher Demko in game number 1 against Edmonton. He was playing with the flu, and he threw up in his mask. Yep, true story. He threw up in his mask in the very first game, and and he was still able to get the win as well. And Brock Besser also scored again, so he has 5 goals on the night. Elias Pettersson, he's in a contract year. He's definitely in a position where he can determine a lot of the future of the Vancouver Canucks, where he wants to see the direction before committing long-term there as well. So there's a lot of pressure on that market and a lot of pressure on that team to make something happen as well. So that's really look into the opponent for the Florida Panthers as they welcome in the Vancouver Canucks on Saturday night here at Emirates Bank Arena. So the Panthers will be returning home Saturday, but before that, they will be having a 12 p.m. practice from Emirates Bank Arena on Friday. We'll get more updates. Will we see maybe Sam Bennett have an opportunity to return before Paul Maurice did discuss that he will likely play before the Panthers hit the road again, but he emphasized that obviously opening night has passed, but even before opening night, he said that he was not going to play on Thursday. But who knows? We could very well, maybe we could see that. Maybe we see more of other updates as well. But the Panthers will be back at Emirates Bank Arena on Friday afternoon at 12 p.m. So on Monday's edition of the show, we will recap the weekend that was for the Florida Panthers and break down what happened with the Vancouver Canucks, and then also prepare for a big day in the NHL next Tuesday, as well as it will be not only a 16 game night on Tuesday, but it'll be a version of NFL Red Zone Hockey Edition next Tuesday, as all the start times will be in 15-minute intervals. And ESPN Plus will be having what's called a Frozen Frenzy, but that's going to be on next week's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. So make sure you subscribe as well to the podcast. So as we prepare that, but thank you guys all for listening. The Florida Panthers win their home opener against Toronto, a big division win for the Panthers, keeping themselves in the division race and not giving themselves an opportunity to fall behind early, because you can't win the division and you can't clinch a playoff spot early on, but you can definitely put yourself on track to not be in a playoff spot. And the Panthers are definitely not in that position early on, as they are 2-2-0 after 4 games. But in the meantime, if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez, signing off. And you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.